Lovely. So I'm Nickolas Kowalski, operations director and co-founder at Celestial. As I said in the intro, we've been running since 2020, and yeah, to be honest, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. Supported by the guys at DSS, we've been able to put on some amazing shows, and really help raise awareness for this kind of new technology that is yeah, just blowing people away. To be honest. I think, yeah, without having been around one, sort of seeing one for real, you kind of underestimate it. It's a real kind of visceral feeling, having, hundreds of drones taking off in front of you and performing beautiful things in the sky. But firstly, I'd just like to say thanks to the DSS team, for all the great work. The newest version of the software looks amazing. So many, niggles and things ironed out, and really useful tools for operators out there. Have been brought in and implemented, so it's all looking really, really great. Also, along with kind of supported drones, there's choice now, as opposed to having to build your own drones from scratch, and that's, for a lot of people, adds a whole extra layer of complexity and makes this thing sort of unachievable. So being able to go out there and have recommended suppliers from you guys is brilliant. Yeah, I mean, we were fortunate enough to be be completing our training with on the software at about kind of New Year's time. It was probably about October, November sort of time last year, and we had a first sort of work inquiry, which was the New Year's drone show in Edinburgh in Scotland. So I'll give you a brief overview of that one. In 2020, there were the massive street carnival that normally goes on in Edinburgh wasn't able to take place because of COVID. So the event company behind the normal street party wanted to do something a bit different, and there were all sorts of ideas of where it could be done. But at the time, there was such a sort of worry of drawing a big crowd, even unintentionally, that we basically ended up having to go to the Scottish Highlands in the middle of nowhere, so there could be no crowd, and basically film a lot of the stuff in a beautiful setting, which we found actually enhanced the drone show itself, because a lot of these things above stadiums, and you're used to seeing them kind of in built up areas and cities and things like that, but actually having kind of nature in the background of it really helped us tell a story, which was a 3-part film that you can see on YouTube or online channels.
Yeah, and so, by the way, how many drones did you actually fly on your first shows?
On our first show, it was 150.
Okay.
So yes, it was a big kind of step up. We've been testing with smaller quantities, but the client on this occasion decided they needed a large quantity of drones, so it was a massively ambitious and challenging project. But yes, I mean, we managed to turn it around, and yeah, put something up amazing in the kind of skies in the middle of nowhere in torrential rain, about an hour away from any civilization. We had to build a whole infrastructure site on location to be able to kind of keep everyone sort of comfy and able to kind of do these things, because with so many cameras and the swarm itself, to kind of think of it was a proper kind of production in itself. So yeah, lots of moving parts, but immensely, what we got out of it was incredible. I mean, we got so much media coverage, even though we weren't the biggest New Year show in the UK, just what we did and the story we told kind of really seemed to resonate with people. So yeah, that was a massively challenging job, but pulled it off. And then in 2021 we landed another couple of high profile jobs with Amnesty International and Greenpeace, so kind of charities in themselves, and climate change awareness, companies that are basically pushing on these things. So obviously for them, the drones being reusable and not single use like fireworks kind of really kind of resonated with companies like that, who obviously have some ethical keystones that they looked for. So with Amnesty International, we ended up, it was a very, very confusing one, but we ended up having production team partners all over the world who providing us with footage that we could then use as kind of background footage, because at the time we couldn't travel anywhere. There was no going over and actually flying these things in location, so a lot of it had to be done kind of in post to make an amazing film for Amnesty's 60th anniversary. And it was, again, a very, very emotional. I mean, I feel kind of in a way Celestial have kind of found its little kind of unique selling point in making these things quite emotive. To be honest, all three of these projects, my wife has cried on watching them. So whether that's good or whether that's bad, I think it's good. I think it shows the medium can, really invoke emotion.
I agree, and I think also from the experience I've had during shows is that it's usually it is quite emotional, especially after you have invested all of this into that and kind of see it basically grow to fruition. And especially here, I think also looks quite amazing where you have, these essentially, animals that are made out of drones. It just looks kind of something like out of this world,
Exactly. Which, kind of in telling stories and things like that, it's a really powerful medium. And yeah, being able to kind of depict things in such accuracy. I mean, obviously, you need, if you want to do, I guess it's resolution at the end of the day. If you want to do really kind of accurate stuff, I mean, the only way to do it is with a lot of drones. But what we've kind of been working on at Celestial is, trying to tell a story kind of, using kind of less almost to create more, because we're so used to seeing these huge swarms of drones, from the Eastern market, from China and things like that, and we really don't feel, you need huge quantities to tell an interesting story. You just need to kind of obviously combine a lot of elements and kind of push the technology in different ways. So it's been a crazy year. Obviously we had the pandemic, which totally, I think a lot of people aren't doing what they were before, and people are refocusing. But for us, it kind of gave us a really, really kind of interesting springboard to kind of try and get this technology out there, and the three projects we've worked on have all really kind of done that.
By the way, I think it's also worth mentioning here that in the chat we have also someone from Scotland. So we have Keith.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, who also said that the Hogmanay show was outstanding and that it was quite emotional for him as well, and that everything was.
Thank you. We did have a few Scots on the team helping us with that one. Make sure we got the tone right, which again is quite important. Making sure that you're not sort of taking people's culture for granted, and making sure you're kind of using kind of authentic, language and something so the story resonates with where it's meant to be about. But yes, that was definitely the aim for that. It was hopefully a message of hope in a bit of a dark time for everyone. Right. So yeah, basically I thought I would share some kind of my input of kind of a year of kind of operating and kind of the opportunities and challenges that have kind of presented themselves, and the things that are kind of on my team's mind at the moment. I mean, obviously 2021 was crazy. We had started off amazingly. We in the UK we had obviously our show in Scotland, but then we had one in London that was run from some competitors of ours, and both of them were brilliant, and really kind of highlighted this is here to stay, this technology, and a really good kind of introduction of what we can do with it. But this year we've had the Olympics. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. It's not even just the Winter Olympics anymore, it's the real Olympics. Tokyo, that show was again incredible. So I think public awareness is really beginning to kind of rise on this technology, and as we're kind of saying, clients are looking for this sort of stuff. We've been approached by lots of high value brands looking to kind of stretch this in marketing campaigns. Some things have worked, some things they're still kind of struggling to get their heads around the concept and how to use it. And obviously with kind of lockdown restrictions, it's now easing up. It's starting to become possible to actually do that sort of stuff, as opposed to the logistic nightmare that it was before. What's very exciting is like the live events industry sort of starting to come back. I've always envisaged these things over festival stages, and my background initially was an audiovisual engineer before moving into the UAV sector. So large stages, profile artists, that sort of thing. I can only see this, being incorporated as the technology kind of grows and starts working its way in with standard live event production methods. I could just feel it's going to be another arrow in the quiver of this industry's arsenal, really. So and yeah, obviously, as we said, with such a large thing in the sky, in terms of crowds and things, spacing, distances and things like that, it's you can comply with that. You can have a larger viewing area and sort of get people in without the crush of a normal crowd, which still in some areas of the world is a no-go. So definitely lots of opportunities seen in just the last year of us doing it. I think as you said, Chris, most people so far haven't actually seen a drone show in person, and I think that's kind of something that I feel everybody out there, whether it's you're looking to start something or you're already operating, we've all got to work on being able to sort of put whatever scale it is, whether it's 20 drones, whether it's 200 drones, whether it's 2,000 drones, we kind of need to get it out there, and get the awareness of this medium across. And I think only then will really the innovation of what that can be done with it will start to kind of show. When people kind of start thinking, well, what else can we do with this? How can we make it as interesting as we can, and what's the stories we're telling with it? Hopefully then it may replace fireworks, which I think could only be a good thing in terms of single use kind of technology. I mean, it's there's definitely room for them both to kind of work in the same sector, but if it is, say, in terms of all the climate catastrophes they have had in Australia the last few years, I think they're definitely looking at moving away from essentially old technology that can cause fires, as opposed to reusable things that are essentially safer.
Yeah, definitely. Also, a few years back, I was in Australia, also in Melbourne, for the drone show, and also what they told me was that Australia usually has one of the largest fireworks displays actually in Sydney, because it's kind of basically the first place where one of the first places where New Year happens every year. And so also then during that time they had those horrible forest fires kind of raging across the whole country. And so that's why it also was quite conflicting. So why are we spending this much money on something that creates all the smoke and noise and pollution and all that, if the country is already kind of on fire? So it's quite an interesting subject, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And all sorts of organizations are kind of picking up on that side of things. So yeah, I think it's a really, really sort of key area. I mean, so one thing we found so far is it's really, as an operator, it's kind of your responsibility and sort of the main goal really is in informing clients of what is possible, what's not possible. But obviously a client will come to you sort of with an idea, or maybe you'll have to help them to develop the idea. But this being so new, very much it's kind of you are having to kind of take the lead in proposing what is possible versus what's just not not feasible. And you have to be quite firm in those conversations, because not knowing all of the ins and outs, and there are different regulations for different countries and things like that. It's a tricky thing to kind of to balance. But at the end of the day, if you can kind of inform the client as much as you can of what the limitations are and things like that, you'll get the best result out of it. But yeah, the varied levels of compliance are tricky as well, country to country. I guess most people starting off like us are proposing to just operate in the country that they're in. But undoubtedly it's happened to us a lot, to being asked to kind of operate elsewhere, overseas and things like that. And then in each case, each country pretty much, there are kind of overall kind of broad outlines of how these things need to be done safely, but you just need to check in each area that you're conforming to their air authorities guidelines, and yeah, just so you don't get caught out by a change of essentially regulation between countries. It's always very worth keeping in mind. And as I touched on earlier, I think there is a temptation, it's sort of very keen. Obviously, everyone wants to fly as many drones as you can using this sort of stuff. But the kind of Chinese and Eastern market, I good luck trying to compete with the numbers they can put up. I don't know, Chris, have you seen the largest? What's the largest? Is 3,000 or something like that? Or
something like that, maybe now even larger. But yeah,
exactly.
I know, they basically they launch all of them, and then we'll hope that, like, let's say half of those drones will actually finish the show. And so it's I guess more of a quantity, not quality kind of thing going on there.
Exactly. I mean, I think we've always seen it, but I think there is definitely more intricate stuff that can be done. It doesn't all have to be so literal. Maybe using your drones in a more abstract way to tell stories and things. Being able to not being able to put up thousands of drones or even hundreds of drones to begin with, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think people just need to be able to think outside the box, think creatively, and kind of really sort of make the most of what you have. And if that sort of stuff is successful, then you will be able to increase your fleet as you become more successful. But I would say, just don't aim for 1,000 drones as your first fleet. I would say just a bit of just dealing with that many is quite a logistical nightmare in itself. Right. So just a few bits of advice, I guess, that I wish I'd had kind of starting out in this. There were no webinars kind of like this when I started looking into this, and it was kind of very much the Wild West that DSS were kind of taking charge of and leading with. There are a few other options around the world, but I don't think us at Celestial would have gone any other way, despite us being from the UK. It's great to be working with someone kind of based in the EU. That's fantastic. It's so nice not to have to, in order to kind of speak to someone, be on different times totally. And if you want to go out and visit, it's the other side of, you're just across the channel versus, flying to the other side of the world. So, it's really nice to have, a base in the EU that, is creating so much innovation in terms of this technology. Main thing, I think, for any company, really, this is just kind of broad company stuff, is what's your focus? Like, are you going to be, putting up kind of billboard stuff for stadiums, or are you going to be looking at maybe smaller, weddings and private parties? Really try and focus it in on what it is you're trying to be, focusing on, because that's what's going to let you access the market, meet the right clients, and kind of really help your business along initially, because you need to get the jobs in to be able to get more drones, do more shows. So that's a main one. Just decide kind of what you are going to be heading out to achieve, because I think if you just put like a broad base out there, you'll be pulled in all sorts of directions that maybe you're not wanting to focus on. Next one was technical foundations. Like, really, hardware is hard. You need to know the basics, and without it, I think you will struggle, and especially initially, even with support. Like, DSF provide great support, with technical problems we've had in the past. They're just on the end of the phone, and brilliant in kind of helping you kind of navigate those kind of technical problems. But really, if as kind of Chris alluded to in the earlier slide, if you don't have someone who essentially knows how the tech works and is a good pilot, then you're going to struggle. Again, as I mentioned, compliance earlier, the rules depend on different countries, but it's a major one. In the UK, we've got some quite busy airspace, so our rules are fairly serious. Other territories, some places probably won't encounter quite so much difficulty. The kind of EU being kind of broadly overseen by the European Air Authority, we're roughly in the same sort of ballpark. But anywhere outside of that, the rules are going to change. And if you are going to operate outside of that, make sure you know your area rules. And lastly, the really exciting thing is, with the time code capacity of these things, there are so many things, as we said, pyrotechnics, lasers, but I think that's the tip of the iceberg of really what you can integrate into shows, and potentially be able to kind of put on a drone show, and have it all synchronized to go with a large kind of, I don't know, stadium tour or festival stage. You know, that's I feel that's definitely where these things are going to be really kind of coming into their own. So yeah, this whilst obviously may make beautiful things in the sky, just remember to dress it and tell an interesting story.